Welcome back to Benny's Custom Works, proudly supported by Sparesbox. In this episode, we're going to be all over the place with the CRESTA. Unfortunately, things haven't quite gone to plan with the car. We've had heaps of reoccurring ignition issues. So basically, this episode, we're going to be on the dyno at Just Engine Management. Then we're going to be at the track twice. We're going to go to Jamboree. And then we're going to be on a Wednesday test night. Let's get straight into it. Just going to go, Sam. Hey, just going to go for a run.
I can't hear you.
What? Going to go for a run?
A little one. Alright, so we didn't rev the nuts off it just then, but we just did enough to kind of see what's up. How come we got 40 pounds of base fuel pressure? Any reason?
That was what you told me to put in it the other day, so that's what I set it to.
Why did we do that at the time?
No, this was only the other day. What would you like it to be? Because I did bring tools.
All right, let's crank her up a little bit and get, we'll go to 50.
Does that now bugger all of your tuning though?
No, not really.
Because the ECU just compensates for it?
Yeah.
Oh, one question I did have from the internet, which is probably actually a really good, valid question.
Yeah.
When you're setting your base pressure and you've got staged pumps,
yeah.
do you...
As long as your reg's the same, as long as your reg's flow, first of all, as long as your reg's sized correctly to flow the amount of return fuel, shouldn't matter.
Okay.
But
so pressure.
Second level of that is a bit tricky where when you go to staged pumps, you're using some of the return as well.
Yeah.
So you don't actually, if you've got 1,000 horsepower, two 500 horsepower fuel pumps, or say two 500 litre an hour fuel pumps, you don't need a reg that flows 1,000 litres. Because by the time,
hopefully you're using it.
You might use 300 litres of the first pump, so you only need a reg that flows 700 litres, for example.
Yeah.
Our O2 trim used to pull out 3% everywhere. Now it's pulling out 27% at the beginning.
To 25?
Up to 25 at the end.
Yeah.
So the problem that we might...
So our fuel system actually works now, basically.
Yeah, we've got... So
Yay!
What I need to
So the
look
ECU
at,
was previously chasing a lazy fuel system, basically?
Yeah. So we were tuning around just injector size and fuel system, so fair enough.
Yeah.
But now what we have to do is figure out if we've bodged it in the map or if it's what's actually in the car and we need to muck around with our injector flow rate in order to get it in the ballpark. Because yes, they're called 2400s, but they're only 2400s at a particular pressure.
Yeah.
So, and they're 2400s on probably test fluid,
which
or
isn't
petrol,
the same
or
as,
ethanol, or whatever. So that advertised number is never the number that you just type in and get on with it, and it feeds into the table perfectly. In a perfect world, we'd go and flow this actual injector at every pressure and every injector dead time, and holy instead of doing all of that, we know that the base for the engine was right because it lived for so long. So I'm going to manipulate the injector flow rate and not change the...
Is that the first pull?
Yeah. It seems to happen a bit, doesn't it? Yeah.
It just blows my mind now, like, with this setup, you just sit here and go, oh yeah, base pressure, 630 kilowatts. Like, I remember back in the day in RS Liberty Club land, the first guy to crack 200 kilowatts of the wheels was like a god. And now I feel like in Subaru land, if you're not 300 kilowatts, you're not even on the map. It's funny how advances in like something simple like fuel, like E85 now is just like the gift.
What's Subaru land?
I just saw the Subaru internets.
Alright, so all we're going to do is do another pull to make sure that the mixers were about right there. How good's a hub dyno? Straight into third gear, just let it rip.
So it's only just getting sort of toasty at the top.
So 7 grand, we come back, it's pulling 5%, that's cool. 7.5, it's pulling 10, so I'm going to change that. Minus 5, so then it's going to end up pulling 5 there, and at 8 grand, it would have been pulling 12. So at 8 grand, minus 7 gives us back to our 5. And you can see that using this sort of formula, the shape ends up looking pretty. And I'm just kind of doing blanket changes everywhere, assuming that we're going to get the same shape everywhere. All right, here we go, bigger one.
Full zingy. What's up?
Nothing, I don't think.
Nothing you don't think?
Nah.
What,
Alright.
same boosting?
No. What's the next number?
I don't know. What is the? I don't know where we ended up at.
Target Boosto, 36,
Is that the highest number?
38, 40, 42.
42. I thought we were going 40.
40.
Just getting twitchy. I need a wee.
Huh?
I need a wee
You do?
after this pull. Nervous wee.
All right, here we go.
Going a wee.
Okay.
So the last run, the pull was a little bit fluffy. It sounded like the ignition was breaking down a bit. So we've just pulled the plugs out and gapped them down to 0.35. I have left the spark plug cover off now. And the other thing I noticed too is I left the air filter on previously, so we've now taken that off and we'll see what the next one does. And I'm gonna move the fan closer.
Move the fan closer, I think. This can't hurt. Interesting that we haven't changed anything. Why did we not like that at all?
What did it do?
Nothing, just misfired like crazy. Our mixed target mixtures are arguably perfect, and our trims are back within 1%. I don't have a reason. I don't. Let me just quickly check battery voltage. Yeah, let's have a look.
Stoked I didn't put the cover on.
Oh yeah.
Things didn't go to plan. We've had a few ignition breakdown issues. Still a fairly good result. We made 1100 horsepower at the wheels. But yeah, we've got that reoccurring ignition breakdown. So after that, we changed the ignition coils off camera, and we also played around with the wiring a little bit. So let's now head to Jamboree. Jambo was a washout. Unfortunately, we didn't get one pass in. A few guys did get some passes down, but we weren't fortunate enough to be in that group. At that point, the car was still an unknown. We didn't get a full pass in or anything that we could get solid data from. So on the trans brake, it was good. In the car park, driving it around was good. But working out where it was breaking down on the dyno was about 140 mile an hour. So we had no way of testing it legally or safely unless we put it back on the dyno or went to the track. So with that in mind, we decided to go out to a Wednesday test and tune. Unfortunately, those test and tunes are also limited to an 8.5 time cutoff. In the first few passes, I was pretty cautious to not break out on those times because there's no leniency at all. Even though the car's teched for 8.0, on those particular Wednesday night events, it's an 8.50 hard cutoff because it is a street meet. It's not a proper test and tune. That's it's just ruled differently. A few passes in, the car seemed to go all right. We're pretty happy with the initial results. A few little ignition breakdowns, but it wasn't crazy. On the last few passes, we wound the boost up, and the breakdown just got worse and worse and worse. The drags didn't go to plan, obviously. We've still got a consistent ignition breakdown in cylinder 2. We pulled the data logs and you can actually check it with the EGTs. That cylinder 2 is getting progressively cooler the longer you go down the track. Some of you guys are probably wondering why I sat on that ignition breakdown for so long in some of the passes. Basically, we determined that it wasn't going to cause any damage, and it was a really good way to get consistent data. And by using the EGT individual cylinder measuring, we can basically isolate which cylinder it was. Every time it breaks down and doesn't fire, obviously that cylinder is going to get cooler. So yeah, looking at the traces in the data log, we could see that cylinder 2 was consistently cooler, and it just rolled right over by the end of the pass. So with that in mind, I think what we're going to do is replace the wiring harness to the coils. We're also going to replace the coils again. And Platinum Racing Products are just about to launch their Barra coil kit. So I really want to get one of them so we can mount the coils properly. Cylinder one, while not an issue, the coil doesn't mount correctly. I've never been happy with that. And the initial photos that I've seen of their test kit, it actually spins the coils around 180 degrees. So that's going to mean they're going to mount heaps better. So yeah, I think that's probably the way forward with this setup. If we continue to stay with the R35 coils, that's obviously going to be the best bet. If we consistently have these problems, maybe we'll look at going to a different coil, but for now I want to stick with those R35 ones. They've served us pretty well. Benny's Mustang still runs them and goes faster than this, so I think we're not going to have an issue. Also, R35 GTRs make tons of power with those stock coils, so like 2,000 horsepower is not unachievable with the stock coils in a GTR, so I feel like they should still be pretty capable in this. And the problem going to bigger coils, say like the IGN 1A, is you've then got ignition leads and you've got to mount the coils somewhere. They do pump out a ton more power, so it is potentially an option, but the packaging in the bays is potentially going to be an issue where we're going to put 6 coils plus leads. And then the other issue we have is barrel cylinder heads. The spark plug wheel is really long, so getting a ignition lead that'll actually fit in there properly is going to be our next issue. So plenty more fault finding to come. Yeah, new coils next episode, new bracket next episode, new wiring. Basically, we're just going to go away from as much of the original Ford loom as we can and just start to replace wiring. And then if we do rewire the vehicle in the future, we've already got modular looms. We did the same thing with the injector harness already, so we've remade that and it's terminated to a Deutsch connector. I think we'll probably do the same with the ignition harness, just new ignition harness with a Deutsch connector. So then we can, if we do make a new loom, we just build off of those sub harnesses as opposed to rewiring the whole thing. Yeah, sad times ahead. I think we're not going to be at the track for a while with this whole thing that's going on at the moment. I know it is a trivial thing too, don't get me wrong, like this is pretty serious. Going to the track's a nice luxury, but it's obviously, people are now being affected their day-to-day lives. So I don't want people to feel like I'm playing it off as something that's not serious. It is a pretty major concern. So we're going to try and keep making videos as long as we can. We do have a backlog of videos, so if we actually can't film, we will still be putting videos out as long as possible. We really appreciate everyone's support watching us. Thanks to everyone who does continually watch, subscribe, all our Patreons. Thanks to Sparesbox, those guys have backed us from day one. They're also still operating, so if you are at home working on your car, they can still mail stuff out to you. Heaps of Australian companies are still mailing out. We'll probably put a little bit of a list together of everyone we know that's still operating, so if you do need stuff, jump on those guys. Everyone's really appreciative of everyone's support, so we'll try and keep operating as long as we can. And if we do have to stop filming for whatever reason, hopefully we'll have enough backlog of videos that we can still pump content out and you guys can keep watching. Thanks guys, thanks for the support, and we'll see you next time.